You guys notice that the little thing I'm wearing? That's because tonight's class was originally about security. How do you protect yourself and your family? But because the events that have been taking place in the last couple of weeks on the East Coast, we've been finding some very interesting examples of things that didn't work well, particularly in North Carolina. Now, Florida, I think things are working better because Florida is more of a professional disaster state. North Carolina didn't seem to have their stuff organized as well as Florida does, and so the people there were suffering a lot more. And we're going to show you some clips of people that experienced firsthand what was happening over there, and we want to talk about how we might be able to avoid those same mistakes here in Utah. Now, we're not going to obviously get hit with a flood, with a hurricane. What could we get hit with? Probably an earthquake. Now, an earthquake, in my humble opinion, actually will be probably more dangerous than the hurricane was, because you don't get much of a warning with an earthquake, do you? Very little chances of getting a warning. At least the folks in Florida had plenty of warning. But Maria is she's the one that helped put together a lot of the material that you're going to see tonight. And then I'll chime in on my section where I get to talk about guns and communications. Fair enough? And if you have any questions, this is our microphone, so we're going to be recording the event tonight. So we want you to be able to project your voice to the microphone if you have a question, okay?
Okay.
Maria, you can also repeat the question.
Okay. I'll probably just do that. Just repeat the question. Okay, so I kind of started on a rabbit hole on this hurricane, and it came about because I was just watching what was going on, but I was seeing people talk about their experiences, and I thought, oh, these are good lessons. These are really life lessons that can apply to any disaster, earthquake, fire, flood, anything. So go ahead, and we're going to watch 2 videos by 2 ladies. And if you'll notice, I'm also carrying my gun, ladies. We can carry guns. The time for being afraid of guns is kind of over now. We really need to protect ourselves. Those Venezuelan gangs are here in Utah County. The sheriff confirmed that. The ones that are taking over in Colorado, they're here. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a lot of different people I'm noticing moving in and stuff like that. So just be careful, be aware, and it's not, go ahead.
Did you want to cover these
Sure.
issues?
It's not a scary thing. They're not scary. I carry all the time. I have a concealed carry. I've taken classes. It's not a scary thing. It's not anything to be afraid of. It's not anything to worry about. It's a way to protect yourself. It's the ultimate way to protect yourself. So we're going to start. Okay. So there's an article. I'm not going to read it, but so the first thing is don't be guilty of normalcy bias. Everybody here should know. Everybody know what normalcy bias is? Anybody not know what normalcy bias is? Okay. Normalcy bias is thinking, oh, that can't happen here. I live in Utah. That's not going to happen here. What's that? All is well in Zion. Yes. So it's a way that our brains protect ourselves from going down, those rabbit holes, and you just get overwhelmed and stuff. So our brains protect us from that. But if you have normalcy bias, you're going to end up not prepared and possibly hurt because you think, oh, that's not going to happen. My neighbors aren't going to turn on me. That's not going to happen. Just remember that. It's not going to happen to me. That's normalcy bias. Don't assume that because it hasn't happened yet that it won't happen. In that article, one of the guys that lived in North Carolina said that, with all the weather people were warning people. They were like, this is going to be bad. This is really a disaster. And everybody that he talked to said, oh, well, we had a flood a few years ago, and if you're up high, you're fine. You're totally fine. So everybody was like, okay. So they just kind of relaxed. Don't trust your cell phones to work after a disaster. The power was out, the cell phones were out, they had no way to communicate, they were, yes, and they're still finding people in their homes. Don't expect a public warning to give you a heads up on a pending disaster, like he said, an earthquake. We get no warning.
Don't expect society not to break down within a day or two. It doesn't take long.
No, it doesn't. And you'll see
Go crazy.
in the videos. So my son Landon just told me that the fault here in Utah is 100 years overdue. So that could happen any day. We had one in 2020. Don't expect the police to be there for your security. How many people know that? How many people there are in the Utah County?
700,000.
How many sheriffs and police are there? Those odds are pretty bad. So they're going to go to the most populated areas first. So we here in Woodland Hills, we have our one deputy. He may not be able to get up here.
He services 3 other cities.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not close by. They're on the other side of the lake.
Go ahead and click on that article. So I'm going to email this to everybody.
It's actually on our website. The whole presentation's on our website.
Oh, it's on our website. Okay. So this was an article that came out a couple of days after, and this is where they interviewed a guy, and he was talking about kind of the normalcy bias and the things that they weren't ready for, they weren't expecting. I mean, even the weathermen were expecting a bad storm, but they never expected it to be as bad as it was. So these once in a 1,000-year things, they're happening more and more. So we just need to be prepared for that. Okay, go ahead and go back. Next one. Okay, so this first video is a lady that I found, and so when you open it up, she talks really fast, and you'll have to unmute it. Look for the emergency
Update
issues
from
that came
Asheville.
up.
I am
Right there at the top.
recording this and editing it in my house and hoping that somehow I can find cell service to post it to TikTok and Instagram. We have been out of power and water at my house in my neighborhood since Friday, early Friday. We are doing the best that we can. Everybody's kind of working together. In our neighborhood in particular, we've got some folks with generators, so at the very least we can power our refrigerator and our devices, and then, you know, we make a big fire at night so people can cook food over that, and we have a camp stove. Outside of our little neighborhood, things are not so pleasant. I went out to Ingles yesterday just to see if they had bread and milk. I'm talking a giant supersize Ingles, and they were completely out of bread and had like 3 gallons of milk. All the stores are cash only, and it was a giant long line to get in the store and a giant long line to get out. It took us an hour and a half to check out. While we were in line, somebody with an AK-47 started shooting up the gas station next to us because there's no gas. Turns out it was the manager trying to defend the place from marauders. We do have a battery-powered boombox, so we try to listen to the news every night. 88.1 is the local station here, and they do have updates pretty regularly. But even with that being the case, we don't have any updates on when we're going to have water. All Asheville will say is that it's going to be an extended repair. We are supposed to have power by Friday, or at least that's what Duke Power is estimating. In terms of resources, it's anyone's guess. The most reliable source for information at this point has been Reddit. There's an Asheville subthread wherein people are constantly updating with what resources are being distributed in their neighborhood. So if you're from Asheville and you're listening to this, I would suggest go finding the Asheville subreddit because that is the most reliable place. There's a mega thread where everybody is posting everything. Aldi was handing out all of their freezer food because it was going to go bad. Lowe's was handing out free bottles of water. We keep hearing that there's going to be water given to Asheville or distributed at some point somewhere, but I don't know where and we don't know when. Same with food and same with every other resource. All of our shelters are pretty much at capacity, including the Western North Carolina Ag Center and AB Tech campus. The scariest part is at night, you can hear a lot of gunshots and a lot of people yelling because people are trying to defend their homes and their properties. All of our social services are at capacity. Police, the sheriff's department, the fire department, everybody is doing the best that they can, but there's hardly any water and there's just not enough people to cover the amount of devastation that we're experiencing. When I was standing in line to check out, there was a firefighter that told me they got a phone call for a house on fire and they just couldn't get out. There was nobody to get out there. So the house burned to the ground. 40 minutes for somebody to get out there, and by the time they did, of course, the house was completely gone. That's the best update that I can offer anybody at this point, especially my friends and family. Please stitch this or respond. Let me know how you're doing. If you're from Asheville, this is the best way that I can reach out to everybody and the most reliable way since I can't always get cell service. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to post this on social media. I love you guys, and we will keep you posted. Thank you.
Okay, can anybody name a few emergency things that came up? Any? Water. Yes.
And protection.
Power. Protection. One of the so this video was 3 days in, just 3 days. This wasn't 3 weeks; it was 3 days. So the police were overwhelmed, unable to help. There was no power and water. she didn't have a generator, but her neighbors did. And obviously they must have been sharing and kind of helping each other out. When she was in the grocery store, could she pay with her debit card?
No.
Cash only. I've seen this multiple times. Cash only, they're only taking cash. We need cash. I've got to get cash. So my family came into town and they brought me cash. These were all these different stories that I've heard. And there were long lines at the store. Did you hear? She said it took her an hour to get checked out.
While she was waiting, someone was shooting up the gas station.
Yeah, I want to clarify. She probably doesn't know what kind of gun the guy had. I doubt it's an AK-47.
But anyway, somebody was shooting up the gas
Somebody was protecting their gas station. So at the grocery store, she heard gunshots in the middle of town. So businesses were protecting their, with firearms. So people are going to be protecting their homes. The other one, she had a radio, and so they were able to tune into the radio to get updates. Because information in a disaster, how many were here during the fire? Getting information was pivotal. It was vital. And just knowing what was going on, when are we going to get back in our house? Is our house going to burn down tonight? So getting all that information. I utilized Facebook during the fires. Carrie was really good about posting stuff on Facebook, and that's where I got 99% of my information. And so she used Reddit. I don't know if you guys all know what that is. It's just another social media type app. And their internet was out, so a lot of people couldn't let their family know if they were okay or not. The shelters were full. 3 days in, shelters were full. And then the one that got my attention the most was gunshots and yelling at night from looters or desperate people defending their homes with security. 3 days.
Is that South Carolina?
North Carolina. Spencer?
One unspoken thing here is if we lose water, we also, we're on septic up here, but there, if they had, that means that sanitation immediately comes into play.
Yeah.
If you're further down the mountain and you're on a sewer system, sanitation is going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Septic, if you're on a septic tank, you'll be able to survive a little bit longer, but you want to see disease and vector and everything else spread faster than it is breakdown in your sanitation. 3 days in a warm area like that, it's
Yeah.
going to get nasty quick.
Yeah. A lot of them have talked about just the smells of the dead bodies that they haven't been able to get to. Okay, the next one is another lady. This also is 3 days in. This is a lady, she's a realtor in the area, and she has just kind of taken it upon herself to get supplies to people. So go ahead. Same thing, just listen
Share
for
with y'all some
preparedness.
things you may not know about what's happening in the North Carolina mountains in the aftermath of Helene. Here's number one. If you have friends or family that are headed into the mountains or who live there, the looting has picked up major steam. I was advised yesterday by a county sheriff to make sure that anybody out and about is carrying, and in his words, carrying with the safety off. There are very aggressive people out there, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. It's not because they're necessarily awful. They're desperate. Desperate people do desperate things, y'all. And why are they desperate? Because there's no water in some of these communities. We have neighbors in North Carolina with no water. And all I can say is this: the government ain't coming to save you. Not now, not ever, because they don't care about you, the people, anymore. It is the citizens who are going to have to step it up. Now, I got to tell y'all, I was floored yesterday by how my community, which is a little over an hour away from the affected areas, showed up at donation sites with water and diapers and formula and some liquid IV. I mean, y'all brought all kind of things, bleach, vinegar. You are ready to help, and we're going to take more donations today, and we're so grateful for everything because I'm going to get it into the hands of actual volunteers. And I was asking people, like, why are you bringing it to me? Some of y'all don't even know me. And they said, well, we don't trust the relief organizations anymore. Y'all, we have lost our organizations to grifters. We have lost our organizations to liars. And so we have to rely on each other because that's how this country was built. This country was built patriot by patriot. And I can tell you this, as a realtor, I know my realtors in the mountains, and I have talked to them, and they know the neighbors too. So I am getting your donations into hands that are going to get it into hands. And everybody that sent me dollars, I got teams of shoppers out, and I got receipts to prove it, because we are not grifters. We are neighbors. And the patriots that are in the mountains, if you see this, if your family sees this, hear me now. You are not forgotten by the rest of North Carolina. And if you are not in North Carolina, then there are ways that you can give. But can I just remind y'all of something? You cannot eat money. You cannot drink money. So for those of y'all that thought money was your God, and by the way, that includes our freaking elected officials, it's not your God. Told my girlfriend this morning while we were talking about this during our run, I said, tell your children, because she's got grown children, this is why you keep a stash of water on hand. This is why you keep a stash of food on hand. But for those of y'all that are not in affected areas, if you can take your donated items and send it to the mountains, then send it with a friend. Make sure you're sending truckloads so that we don't overload the roads, because our first responders are overwhelmed. By the way, thank you, Governor DeSantis, for doing more for North Carolina than North Carolina's governor has. I'm very grateful for your National Guard, because we have to help each other, y'all. And I'm going to tell you something. If you will share this with somebody who doesn't know what's happening in North Carolina, they need to know. They need to know that there are entire towns gone. Chimney Rock is gone, a beautiful town. Swannanoa, gone. Montreat, gone. Other towns damaged beyond repair. That means our geography has changed, our culture is at risk, but most importantly, our people, our generational people have lost their generational homes. This ain't about your granite countertops anymore. Listen, y'all, listen. Tell somebody how they can help. I am but one resource. There are people I know all over North and South Carolina that have been gathering up goods and trucks. Somebody as far away as Massachusetts putting a truck together. Let me know. I can connect you to where to take things. The Baptists are doing a great job out of Boone. Samaritan's Purse is on the ground. I trust those two organizations. I wish I had trust for more, because I don't trust this government, but I trust the people of North Carolina. Y'all, the biggest thing you can do, pray. Pray right now. Pray fervently that people will turn their hearts back to God, and pray for a hedge of protection around all those who have seen things they should never have to see. I'll tell you one more story before I hang up this video. I had a lady come to my donation site yesterday, and her grandson is 10 years old, living in the mountains with his mother, who works in a VA hospital. They're getting the kid out today to get him home, because they can finally get him out. And they're worried because he has seen things he should never have to see. When you have children that are seeing bodies on the ground and towns gone, we're going to have to answer for that one day, y'all. Please pray. Please do something. And for those of y'all that have already done something, I can't thank you enough. I want to share with
Okay, so she was emotional. This was 3 days in. She, we do know that Chimney Rock is not gone and stuff like that. So this is early information. But was there anything that stood out to you guys specifically that she said? Well,
It's water and food and protecting yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And FEMA is too big to get in there within 24 hours. I mean, they've really been messing this up, but they're just too big to be able to move that fast. It's just too much of a big of an entity.
Help the neighbors that
Are helping.
are helping.
Yes.
People around it not being affected are coming in and helping.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so in just 3 days, again, this is day 3. Looting is in full force, and people are very aggressive. One person reported that there were a lot of illegals in the area, and they were coming out at night and like at gunpoint. So there was, that. Go back. There's a couple of things to go over there.
So she pointed out that they were aggressive not because they were stealing, but because they were
Desperate. Yes.
And a desperate
Yeah.
man or a desperate human is a dangerous.
Yeah. Do you need more light? Okay.
Yeah.
How unprepared
48
you have to
hours
be that
is
you
all
couldn't
it
survive
takes to
for
get
3
that
days.
water, your tongue can start swelling and stuff
Yeah.
from lack of water.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That people would have to
So the county sheriff advised people to protect themselves. There was no water in the communities. So just having your own, what do you need, a gallon a day per person?
5 gallons a day per person.
The good thing, citizens were helping each other. So this story here, some of the downside to having the government involved is there's bureaucracy and red tape and rules that have to be followed or rules that some person decided they need to happen. So one of the stories was they had these shelters set up for people to come and, sorry, this is our camera guy, Matt. So the showers, they had these showers set up for people that they were bringing into town that had lost everything, literally had just the clothes on their back. And they told them, oh, you can't go in and shower unless you have flip-flops. What? I'm pretty sure athlete's foot or warts or whatever you're going to catch in the shower was the last thing that these people were thinking about. So that lady went over to a nail salon and got a bunch of those little tiny, flat, pointless, but it met the quota. So there's a lot of like stupid bureaucracy in this kind of a situation. One of the things, Governor DeSantis, again, Florida deals with disasters all the time, so they're ready to roll. He's already got stuff, ready to go. He sent National Guard up. So having good leadership in your state is vital. It's way more important than who's sitting in the White House. Who are our emergency managers? Who's our sheriff? Who's our local representatives? Who's our governor? Is he going to get on the ball? Their governor was like MIA for 3 days. Like, wasn't giving out any information, they couldn't even find it. So next one. We're not going to watch this. This is just a podcast. It's called The Sean Ryan Show. And these two guys are from this nonprofit called Aerial Recovery. And they go all over the world and they use helicopters to go into more remote areas and get people out and help in emergencies. I guess they do this all over the world. It's a pretty big operation. Again, the link is right here. They are military guys, no offense, Spencer, but they do swear. Military guys swear, so heads up. It's not Joe Rogan level of swearing, but there were a few. Just a heads up. So these two guys were in there just lickety-split, like within 24 hours, they were there. So again, same thing. Within 2 or 3 days, there was looting. 2 or 3 days. One of the stories they told, they flew into an area, they were able to land, and people were coming out to get the supplies, and this couple came out, and they all of a sudden were the chiefs, and they were like, well, we'll take this and we'll hand it out to everybody. So you're going to have bad actors. You're going to have people that don't have good intentions. One other thing that they said too was when they did drop off food, people were like, watch that guy over there. He's not a good guy. So just being aware of your surroundings, knowing your neighbors, knowing who to watch out for. Everybody was caring. Everybody was protecting themselves. A lot of the problems were bureaucracy and egos. This one, like, where was he from? Like Michigan. National Guard. He thought he was the big kahuna and he wasn't letting anybody go and help people because they didn't run it through him. Getting egos out of the way, having plans in place so that stuff like that doesn't happen. And making sure that the correct information is getting out. There was a lot of help not happening until he made a video and it went viral. And then all of a sudden, all the political leaders were like, oh my gosh, okay, well, we'll help, we'll do this, we'll do that. So just getting information out. FEMA and the military were not helping because of the red tape. There was some military not able to help. Well, we can't get orders. We got to have orders. You know how it is. You work for the government.
Stop the people that were trying to help with helicopters?
Yes, I heard that from the lady, the last video, she said that they were having to circumvent FEMA because they were confiscating the supplies. So they were having to go back roads and hide it from FEMA because they were confiscating. Because FEMA, they set up and they want people to come to them. They don't go out in the mountains. They aren't going to climb up to the top of Woodland Hills and make sure somebody's okay. That's not their job.
They stay at the five-star hotels.
Yeah, they tend to stay in town. So I highly recommend watching this. It was a really good video. One clarification that has come out, they talked about a military base had a plane full of supplies. Kamala came out and did a photo op and a video, and somebody reported that those supplies never left once she was done with her photo op. That did not happen. The supplies went out the next day. So when you hear that, if you watch this, there was clarification on that situation. Okay, next. Okay, so this is going to be more of a personal disaster. So I grew up in a little town called Castle Rock, Washington. Anybody ever heard of it? Wow, one person. You must be from Washington. Okay. It's a very tiny 2,000 people logging town on western Washington, and I lived through the Mount St. Helens disaster. So I happened to be talking to my mom about this stuff going on, and she mentioned FEMA from because we were evacuated. Our neighborhood was near the river, and half of our neighborhood got wiped out. We were on the back half, so our house was okay. But it was mandatory evacuation. I was 6. And then I had a younger brother and a younger sister. So 3 kids. My dad was out of work because he worked in a logging mill. All of the woods was kind of shut down because of the mountain and all the volatility. And so my mom mentioned, FEMA was just a waste of time. That was in 1980. So it sounds like nothing's really changed. So she told me that they set up stations in town where you went to sign up for funds. Unless your house was destroyed, you couldn't get any kind of help. So our house wasn't destroyed, but my dad was out of work and we were displaced for 2 weeks. If we hadn't had family around, my parents didn't have any money, so I don't know what we probably would have been sleeping in the Volkswagen Bug that we owned at the time. She said most of the FEMA money went to dredge the river after everything was over. It wasn't immediate help for people. She said looting happened really quick. We were out for 2 weeks. She was really worried. She had no idea what they were going to come home to, if our house was going to be completely looted or what. We had no idea. We didn't even know if our house had gotten hit by the mud flows. And then one of the things I specifically remember, even as a 6-year-old, afterwards, there were looky-loos, and literal buses of Chinese people would drive through our neighborhood. They'd go see the carnage, and then they would drive by our house. And did anybody get ash from Mount St. Helens when it happened? It was like, it just like poofed everywhere. I remember it being like piled up on the side of the freeway when we were coming back home because there was just so much ash. So you've got looky-loos. There were constantly people driving through our neighborhoods just to see the carnage, see the damage. And you're on your own. In a disaster, you are on your own. For at least, I would plan for the first week for sure. So that's just I was 6, of course, I don't remember everything that happened, so that's why I talked to my mom about it. But yeah, she said she's like, yeah, I think we got like a brick of government cheese. And let me tell you, that was not cheese. I don't know what it was, but it was not cheese. I remember that. Even as a 6-year-old, I remember that's not cheese. Okay. I think. Okay. So this is another video. This is a YouTube channel, Wrangler Star YouTube channel. He just does a lot of preparedness stuff. It's a really good channel. So he did a video based on what was coming out of North Carolina and some kind of out-of-the-box things that were needed. So back there, which we would need here, is chainsaws. If we had, we can get really big wind up here. We could have trees go down. We deal with chipper days every year. So not just having a chainsaw, but having extra chains, files, your tools, your gas, your mix, the chaps. Rob can tell you a story about being tired and really probably should have had some chaps on and almost cut his legs. Thank goodness for garments because they saved his leg. And that was just chipper days. Think about being tired and stressed and having water storage containers. I saw a video today they had a boil order, and she had those, it's like a square water thing with the little spigot on the bottom, and they had just set those next to their sink, and that's how they wash their hands. I'm like, oh, that's super smart. I might have to have a couple of those. This video here is a video about using a converter from his truck to change the power from his battery to be able to run a pump and go get water and pump water into containers. So that was kind of one thing that I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Carbon monoxide detectors, especially of earthquakes, that's a big issue. I hope you have them in your house now. A radio, go ahead and click on that. having some way to get information, and Be Ready has these radios. I know most of you have some of these, but Aaron,
I still have about 10 left.
okay. But what channels did you program into these that would be beneficial in a disaster?
Channels I put in there was the channels that our stake uses to help manage our stake resources, the sheriff's department, the county fire department, search and rescue, the local weather channels that run 24/7.
The NOAA channels?
Yeah, the NOAA channels, there's like 6 of them. And then a lot of the local ham radio clubs, the ham radio clubs that are locally, they tend to chatter a lot about what's going on, and just listening to those guys is very valuable. So I put all the local ham radio clubs on there as well. And then on the backside, I put various different city repeaters. So as you're traveling up and down the highway from southern Utah to the northern Utah, you can actually listen to some of the city communications that are going on as you travel.
Okay. So yeah, in an emergency, information is vital. Go ahead and go back. I think we're almost done with my section. Having a battery-powered radio to be able to listen, work gloves, cleaning supplies, trash bags. Do you have just, if we have an earthquake and a lot of stuff in your house is destroyed, you need trash bags, facial masks, having a mask to be able to breathe. And I'm talking like the Mira safety ones, not just a COVID mask. We could use that during fires. I mean, it was pretty darn smoky when we were evacuating during the fires. Having solar banks with solar panels, it's going to be quieter than a generator. If nobody else around you has a generator, it's a pretty big target. So having some sort of a solar panel, tarps for roof damage, and then traffic cones and marking ribbon. I thought was a good idea. Do you know what marking ribbon is? I call it logger tape because that's where I grew up. It's the plastic stuff, and they tie them on to like stakes in the ground and stuff. You can write messages on them, like our family's okay, or we're not okay, or you can let people know, okay, there's 5 more houses behind us that need to be taken care of. So you can leave messages on those kinds of things. Click on the mirror. This guy was noticed. The helicopter noticed them from a mile away, and you'll see he was using a mirror just to get their attention and was able to get help. So something just as simple as having a mirror to get some help. Okay, go ahead and go back. And then, so power outages, say if you know a storm is coming like this lady, if you can't get to the store or the store is out of ice, go ahead and click on it. She gave an idea of what to do to kind of help save your food in your fridge.
Okay, so normally we just buy bags of ice, and during Ian, it was hard to find ice, very hard to find ice. So the reason we have ice is because we have coolers ready. Basically, we're going to lose the entire fridge, so we have coolers ready to just save what we can. Normally, this is the drawer we save because we want our kids to be able to have some food. If I don't eat for a few days, I'll be fine. But kids want them to have something of nutrition. So usually we just grab those. We can put fruit in bags and stuff. So what we did this time, I don't know if they're gonna freeze in time, but I have filled baggies with ice. So, idea, if you need some ice and
just
you
a
don't
simple
want to
idea.
buy a bunch, and actually it's nicer to store in these drawers like this.
You can also throw water bottles beforehand. I think that's next. One thing during the hurricanes, which we won't deal with here, but getting your pets to go outside and go to the bathroom. Say we have a heat monster snowstorm and we can't get outside and go to the bathroom. This is kind of gross, but they went out and they picked the grass where their dog went to the bathroom, and then they set up a pool with puppy pads and threw the grass in it, because a lot of dogs are like, oh, I'm not going to go on that. I'm not supposed to go on that. So thinking about your dogs, your pets, the chickens, they brought in pup tents, like just little tents, and they put their chickens inside the tents in the house during Hurricane Milton. I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. Other useful skills that might end up saving your life. I just thought this was kind of cute because I come from a small town with a bunch of rednecks. So click on the Instagram one. Helene has been a reminder in almost any emergency situation, one redneck friend or neighbor is worth 1,000 PhDs. No offense to anybody who has a PhD, but one redneck guy who has 19 mules taking in. They used mules and horses to get supplies into these remote areas. My grandpa had mules, and to have 19, that's incredible. And they're not all wrapped around the trees and fighting with each other. That's amazing. So just having one good friend who's got some good quality skills. Okay, the next one, the YouTube. This is a mule club, and this guy was taking insulin into a guy that was cut off because he couldn't get any more insulin.
You know, at least this isn't slick asphalt.
So,
You know,
okay, go ahead.
like a lot of traffic.
Go back. So there may be some out-of-the-box situations that come up. We won't watch this. This is just a generator safety. If you're going to use a generator, you need to be careful. Don't put it in your garage. One person put it in their garage, and their furnace was out there, and the furnace sucked in the air, and then they had a carbon monoxide issue in their house. So be careful with your generators. They are loud. They're noisy. They're going to attract attention. If you can come up with some sort of a box to put over it that's quiet, or have electric or solar.
Did you link that video you sent me?
Did I what? Which one?
The complaint video that was sent to the HOA.
Oh, yeah. During the hurricane, I think it was in Florida, a guy who doesn't live in an HOA neighborhood got a notice from the HOA saying your generator is too loud and it's stressing other people out and it's offending other people because you have a generator and they don't.
They can see you watching TV and they're
Seriously, it was a long letter that this HOA took to the guy who doesn't live in the HOA neighborhood.
Be courteous and
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It wasn't just the sound, it was that everybody else gets to see you enjoying your life because
Yeah, because you spent the money to prepare. So people are going to get nutty. People are going to come to you and go, well, you have that, you need to give it to me. It will happen. Okay, this is a success story. This account, she was so cute. They were without power for 15 days, I think, and they were fine. They were absolutely fine. They had tanks, they had ice, they had bottled water, they had a water filter, camping stove. This is a jet boil. Does anybody know what that is? It's kind of for backpacking. It uses the little camping fuel, and then it just boils water really quickly. They had coolers, and they had freeze-dried food. They were taking food over to their neighbors. They were helping out because they had prepared. Next. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Erin. So this isn't to scare everybody, but it's to make you really stop and think. These disasters are happening worldwide, and they're getting worse, and they're happening more. We have fires, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes. There's all kinds of things happening. So that's the benefits of preparing.
Okay, so a family emergency plan. I should say communication plan is what we're talking about first. This is a link to, I think it's the state of Utah website that has a form that you can use. Oh, it's actually the national, ready.gov, that you can actually fill out, and it goes through all the contact information that you might need. Yeah, could you control that for me? That you might need to collect and have at your fingertips in case a disaster happens. So I would highly recommend you go through the questionnaire. At the end, you hit print, and it spits it out in a nice format for you to be able to have a hard copy with you wherever you go. So go ahead and go back to the presentation. Select what kind of communication tools you will use. What kind of communication tools can we use? I'm asking for volunteers to give me some answers.
Radios.
What kind of radios? What's that? Bullfang, okay, ham radios. Walkie-talkies. Anything else? Whistles. Could use whistles. Well, those kind of decisions you got to make now because you need to acquire those. Those aren't something you can acquire after the disaster happens. So select what kind of equipment you want to use. We'll go through a couple of those here in a few seconds. Select which channel on that radio you're going to meet on. There's dozens of different channels that you could be trying to reach each other on and never connect because you're never on the same channel at the same time. So your family needs to select which channel on the walkie-talkie, which channel on the ham radio you're going to use, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. Select what time you want to call each other. One of the things I've been trying to inform leaders here in the Utah County is that we have 700,000 people here that most of the church leadership has said, use your walkie-talkie to communicate, your status to your district leaders and to the ward and so forth. And if your family's trying to use walkie-talkies at the same time, you've got about 15,000 district leaders within walkie-talkie distance that's going to be talking all over you. You're not going to be able to understand anybody. You're not going to know who they are. So if you pick a time that's maybe at 1 o'clock in the morning on a certain channel, you might be able to get a hold of each other finally. Selecting a time and that you can do that is a smart idea. You also need to pick what kind of power you want to have powering your radios, because if it's a long-term disaster, your AA batteries aren't going to last long enough. So you have to figure out how am I going to recharge batteries or replace them. And then you have to practice your communication plan. So if your family is spread out, like I've got kids in West Valley and South Jordan and Springville, my ability to communicate with them is going to be completely different from somebody like you guys might have all your kids maybe in Payson or in, Salem. So you have to figure out what kind of equipment is going to work for your distance and practice how you're doing that. Next page. These are your options. Walkie-talkie, which I didn't highlight because I think they're a waste of money and particular disaster. Ham radios. These are all links, by the way. If you can click on those, you don't need to click on them right now. Don't click on them. That just takes you to where you can actually acquire those tools. Backup power banks, portable solar panels, same thing. It'll take you to links where you can get those. Now let's talk about out-of-town family. Does anybody here have kids, adult kids that are outside of Utah? Okay, ham radios, your ham radios that you're using, that you got from me, for example, won't reach that far to Missouri or somewhere on the East Coast or Hawaii. But there is a way you can reach and talk to your kids if you did proper planning ahead of time. And all that is you find a ham radio operator that's located next to your kids. And you find one that's here. And then you get them to practice that they can actually talk to each other. And then once you've got them communicating, those two ham radio operators, so you can relay family messages, then you set a time and a day after disaster happens that's when he's going to go on frequency. That's when he's going to listen for your family. Okay? Takes a little bit of planning, but that's one of the ways that you can be able to maintain communications with long-distance family members. Everybody see this little bag here I got? Okay, that's the way it's normally carried. This is a waterproof and EMP-proof bag for storing electronics. We bought the materials necessary to block out all signals going in through this material. My wife then sonobonded it, which is an electronic weld, it's a sonic weld of materials that seals it tight so it becomes waterproof. It doesn't allow any water into the bag. And when you wrap the top multiple times over and then seal it, the water doesn't get through there either. But the same thing goes for the signals as well. The signals don't get into the bag. And so this is our first prototype, and I told her I needed to be big enough to be able to handle everything I need for emergency communication. So let me show you what's in my little baggie, which is what you're talking about. First thing here is a 21-watt solar panel charging device. So this is actually designed, I can hook this onto my backpack, I can hang it up, and then it's got connections in here so I can plug in my electronic devices through the top. And that immediately charges directly to my electronic devices, such as my power bank. I can charge this, and then I can use this to recharge my radios later on, because I might be using my radios through the day, and at nighttime I want to charge them. So I can charge them from this when it's dark. And then I also can't forget the charging cables. can't forget my ham radio, which is also programmed in with what? Walkie-talkie frequencies, MURS frequencies, GMRS frequencies. These are all frequencies you guys can use without having a ham radio license. So you can talk to people with those. And then all the other frequencies you can listen. Unless you need to call for help, then you just call for help. Then, if this doesn't work, this becomes an option. And the reason why this might become a problem, this guy right here, there's two reasons why it might be a problem. The first problem is that you've got thousands and thousands of people using frequencies, and you're all going to be talking all over each other. So even though you have GMRS and MURS and FRS on here, there's a lot of other people who have the same frequencies, and so communication is going to be difficult with so many people trying at the same time. So this device is a device that allows you to create a mesh network. That means that everybody else that has one of these radios send signals through all the other radios to each other until it gets to the intended person. So if there's a mountain between Maria and myself, line of sight, I can't talk to her. But if there's people that are stationed around the mountain, my signal will bounce from person to person to person and then gets to Maria. You guys follow me? That's a pretty good tool. The U.S. military uses it a lot, especially when they go into I think it was Iraq, when they went in there, the EMP blasted Saddam's people, wiped out all their communications. And then when we went in, we had to bring our own communications. So the military has a version similar to this. It's its own mesh network, so they built. So this device, the other second benefit of this one here is that it sends encrypted messages. This does not. Anything you say over this radio, everybody that has a radio is going to hear you, even the bad guys. So if you tell them that I'm not at home, I'll try and get home by tomorrow, I guarantee you by tomorrow everybody will have emptied out your house already. So the other problem is medical. You don't want to share medical information on these radios either. So with these kind of devices, I can Bluetooth connect it to my phone, which I keep, an old phone. I Bluetooth it connected. It doesn't have any cell service, because remember, cell towers are dead. And yet I can still send and receive messages with these two devices. And if I kept it safe in here, an EMP won't touch it, or a CME. And with these two devices, I can keep it fully charged. That is a very redundant, successful communications tool. That's what I was working on.
What's the range of that?
Oh, this range? The record is like 160 miles. Average, 30 to 50 miles. So I'm communicating with West Jordan directly with this.
But then it passes it on and on.
It can, up to 7 times. So it can bounce off of 7 different radios if you program it to do 7. Usually it does only 3. All right, so any other questions about that cool setup I'm working on? I will let you know when these bags are ready for production.
Question. Yeah, where's that? How much does the mesh radio cost?
This one?
Yeah, where do we get them?
Oh, click on the button. Da-da-da. Scroll up.
It's already on the website.
It's already on the website. So I just sold 20 of them to the city of Salem. I'm working on the city of Spanish Fork next. I'm talking to a number of church organizations that said they want to implement them for their own churches. But I'm going to be buying another 50 of these radios. Oh, that's the other problem. Guess who makes these radios? You do. I do. I sit in my office with my magnifying glass with a little light on it and little teeny tweezers. Seriously. I look pretty pathetic. But I can get it done, and I tested it, and it worked. So when I get more volume going, then I might outsource the production at a certain point. But for right now, I don't. I'm trying to keep the cost down as much as possible. So they're selling for $75 a piece. If you're not a member, if you are a member, was 60 something like that. All right. And I am developing version 2.0 right now as well. It's not really 2.0. This is a Ford. I'm working on a Cadillac. The Cadillac is going to have a longer battery life, dramatically long battery life. So whereas this one needs to be charged up every day or two, needs to be charged up, the new one I'm developing probably will take 2 to 4 weeks between charging. And it's not much bigger than this. So I've got some of those currently parts ordered, and I'll be assembling those in a couple weeks. Next page. How are we doing time? Oh, we're doing great on time. Home security. You guys got to delay anybody trying to get into your home. So you've got time to get your stuff together. Either get together so you can protect your home or get out. Agreed? So how many people here have glass windows and glass doors in their house? Okay. Of course not. Click on this one here, reinforced doors. There's a way you can actually reinforce your existing door so it'll make it harder to breach your house. It's a kit, $100 kit. And you can modify your doors hinges, and you get 10% off your first order. I have no relationship with these guys. All I know is this is a product that I've seen positive ratings on them from Amazon and from other places, but from what I understand, these are the kind of things that you need to reinforce. Your hinges, this bolt area here, this whole jamb there. So it's got all the components in this kit that you can upgrade. And they've got 3 different colors. So that's one option. Next page, or next item. Go to reinforced glass. So you can reinforce your glass in your house. Okay, this is kind of cool. Watch that for a second. Click out no thanks. This is my old office building in Provo. We actually had him firing an AK-47 in town. And the goal here was to delay the shooter from getting into a school. So he's trying to smash his way through that secondary shield. He broke my AK-47, by the way, when he did that. Oh, go back. And then we also had the other window next door. Scroll down. I don't know. And we had about 8 or so young men try and bust through the glass with baseball bats, crowbars, and a whole bunch of other things. But I got a lot more videos of it. Why isn't it showing up? Anyways, trust me, they had a really hard time getting through, just like the guy with the gun. But there's like 8 of them trying to bust in at the same time. So right now, just so you guys know, the state of Utah has just announced that they're going to require all the schools in Utah, I think there's like 13 or 1,400 schools in Utah, to get more secure to protect the kids against an active shooter. The primary product they're using to help secure the schools is the same film that I just showed you. And they're putting on all the glass windows and all the glass doors on the first floor of every school in the state. Okay? Now, it costs, right, money. It'll run you around $16 to $18 per square foot to install it, unless you want to do it yourself. It's not that hard. If you ever tinted a car window before, it's similar to that, but with a little bit more elbow grease. So be ready. I'm going to take some of the products that I was using with the mosque and the schools, and I'm putting together kits for homeowners. So you have the choice of, if you want to buy a kit, do it yourself. Now, if you want to pay the extra money and have a professional crew come out and do it for you, let me know. There's an installation crew up in Orem that I work with that does the installs. Okay? Basic or bulletproof protection as part of your home security. If you're going to try and face somebody off with your sword, which is your gun, it's not a bad idea to have a shield with you as well, because he might have a gun as well. So you can do that a couple different ways. Bulletproof vest, click on that. That little plate there weighs just over 2.5 pounds, and it'll stop a .30-06 hunting rifle. So you can put that, and it goes in a vest, you wear the vest. So I've got one by my bed that I keep next to my AR-15 as my defense kit. Ballistic shield is another option. So this is another product that we've developed to sell for schools. That is a school mascot that you take it off the wall, it's got a handle grip like this, and it'll stop .30-06 rifles as well. But we space them throughout the school so that any of the staff can use them as a shield. For your home, you could actually have your family portrait put on it and hang that in the front by your front door too. These are other options that you We also make bulletproof doors, bulletproof glass windows. Those are extreme and expensive. I would probably not recommend doing that unless you have a lot of money. Not that you guys don't, just saying. You might be fine just doing the other things I showed you. Now, lethal protection. I highly recommend that you get two types of weapons that you have close to you for defense purposes. One is a pistol, which on that picture there, I'm actually recommending you go to, click on that, they'll take you to Sportsman's Warehouse. Locally, that's one of the best places I found a Glock 17. It's a 9mm handgun, $539. It's about an average price. If you go with the 6 hour, those ones are probably about $100 more expensive. But that's the workhorse of the industry. The other option, I click on the shotgun. You also, in a situation with shotgun, you don't have to be as accurate as you are with other firearms. Correct, you don't need to be. So a good example, you want something that's relatively short. If you go any shorter than that, it becomes what's called an NFA. It's a regulated firearm with the barrel is less than 18 inches. And so you don't want to do that. This is the smallest one you can get. This is it right here. Now these are using a special, or smaller type of shotgun shell. See that? So the benefit of this is a lot easier for ladies to use this firearm than it is for them when they use the larger ones. And close quarters, you don't need to have a bigger shell. And this has a bunch of I think it's like 14 pellets, 15 pellets.
The box is right here.
It really mess you up.
15.
15 pellets. So, again, a little bit of light there so you can see your target. And you just pop it underneath here. And everybody loves the sound of the racking of a shotgun, right? That makes everybody go, oh, crap, or something. Okay, so this is a very nice gun. Now, it's about $559. They have other options which are only like in the $300 range, which you could look at as well. It just might be a little bit longer, but it depends upon what your budget is. Something like this is simple enough to accomplish the goal. Okay?
And I've shot this gun and I can handle it. It's not bad at all. And I don't really love shooting shotguns because they hurt my shoulder.
So also in a disaster situation, I would probably recommend that you wear your firearm on the outside. Okay? People will avoid you as a target if you seem like you're a hard target. If you're an easy target, you'll get preyed on a lot faster. Now, yeah, you could surprise them, pull out your handgun, and then shoot them. I prefer not shooting people at all, even if they're bad people. Okay? Yes?
Non-lethal guns or projectiles are out there.
You could, but if you have to shoot in a disaster situation, you don't want them getting back up. Okay? You don't. Because you're just going to have to try, he's going to come back after you again. Other options you have over here on the table, I've got some of these now in inventory. Do you guys remember these? This is a new one I just picked up. It's a little bigger than the last one. This one has a flashlight on it, which I thought was kind of cool. So I got a flashlight, and then I got this. Every time, let's make you jump. So, again, when you do use one of these, you want to make sure you keep it on their skin for at least 5 seconds or more. Okay, just a short period of time is not going to do enough to stop them from their attack. You gotta hit them. This is 60 million volts. It says volts. It says volts. It is a long time, but I guarantee you when you're done doing it, he's already peed his pants and he's convulsing. He's losing control of his motor skills. Okay? You want them to pee their pants. And then you can shock them down there, then it's really going to make sense. Okay, so these are selling for about $25. They're not on the website yet because I forgot. I'll put them on the website as soon as I can. Got 4 or 5 of these in inventory. There's another one over there. It's black. It's a little bit smaller. No flashlight. A little bit cheaper.
The other thing you guys need to consider is sound is also a great deterrent. Just the sound of that crackle is going to be enough to make somebody pause. The racking of a shotgun is going to make somebody back away. The racking of a pistol, round is going to be enough to deter most people, especially if it's dark. They're not going to want to. Let's go ahead and roll the dice on this up in the woods to see if there's anything that's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yay!
Something that sounds like it if you're averse to
Shooting something?
violence.
Yeah.
Sounds are still very good. Like, that's a fantastic deterrent. Get yourself an Aztec death whistle. That'll scare anybody away.
Okay. Thank you. Conclusion. First of all, are there any last minute questions regarding the security ideas for protecting your home, protecting yourself, protecting your family? I mean, there's obviously hand-to-hand combat training you guys can get into. But if you're overweight like me and you're out of shape, I prefer a gun. But it would be best if you learn some hand-to-hand skill sets, and that's something that you'd have to take on your own, because right now, Be Ready hasn't set up any kind of relationships yet. Okay? Next. Oh, first of all, no more questions, right? Because we're almost on time. We got like 10 minutes, and it's like meeting's over. So conclusion, unexpected disasters can happen at any time, in any location. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Build relationships with neighbors to work together, which is the biggest reason why Be Ready is here, guys. To help your neighbors work together as a group, okay? That means we need more of your neighbors to join us on these activities, okay? Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Those are our social media accounts. We're going to try and post more stuff on there as we can. Did everybody see Sunday's conference? Not sure everybody's LDS here, but probably are. When it comes to preparedness, what is the most important preparedness we can do? Spiritual. Amen. So one of the things I haven't talked to anybody else about this yet. Popping on Maria right now is I'm sorry for popping on without, because I forgot again to tell you about this. Nothing new. But I thought it would be a wonderful idea if Be Ready said, we're going to have a temple night, once or twice a month, and just join us. Join us in an environment where we're not stressing out about the world and disasters, and maybe join us at the temple. So I'm going to throw out a date for you and see which one might work out best. So, no, we won't take our weapons in the temple. So the other thing was our book club. This month we're not going to have a book club meeting. It's going to be postponed. In fact, we're going to change the date from the third Thursday to a different date. And we want to get everybody's opinion. Who would still like to be part of the book club? I know nobody here actually attends. Oh, we got one back there. We got two back there who are willing to join us for the book club. So the book that we're going to work on next is called Survival Theory by Jonathan Hollerman. And it's the same book that we had last month, but nobody read it and nobody came to the conclusion.
So the two people that normally come were out of town.
Yes. So we're inviting others to attend with us. It's only for about usually, an hour and a half. We hang out, we talk, and we try and glean what information we can from the book to help us. That book I just recommended, though, has a ton of information on it. And when you start thinking about all the stuff that Aaron's sharing with you, you're wondering, how come Aaron's some expert? Aaron's stealing information from other people who've done really well in preparing, and I share that with you guys. So I'm really good at plagiarizer. I'll try and disclose who I plagiarize from when I can, and I can tell you right now, Jonathan Hollerman is one of the guys I plagiarize. He's a former SEER instructor with the Air Force. He's taught lots of people on how to search, or what's SEER stand for? Search, evade, escape. Basically, he knows how to survive. He's got survival skills, and he shares a lot of the advice on stuff like that. Also, go to our website real quick, since I got 5 minutes. So just recently, there's a new page. You're there. There's a new menu item here called links. Click on links. This is links to purchase recommended products. Scroll down. So this first is, I'm doing the 3-day bug out bag. That's what I'm focusing on here. And you'll notice I've got categories: shelter, and then it gets down to water, food, protection, communication, medical. Sound familiar, guys? These are all the typical things that you need to have prepared. Cooking, hygiene, we passed to hygiene, transportation, and financial. So those are all kind of things that I'm recommending that you put together. This is a link, so click on, scroll up. One thing I really liked, too far. Keep going, sorry. Going up, going up, going up.
I'm much faster on the mouse.
Oh, sorry. I would keep going. Right about here. Click on this guy here.
Underpants?
The Amazon.
The water filtration?
Yeah. I saw this, I couldn't believe the price. This is such a great price, guys. 25 bucks. This thing will process like 10,000 gallons of water for 25 bucks. I should buy those and resell them to you guys for like 100 bucks. But I'm not. I'm recommending to you, get it here. Now, Amazon said they might pay me a commission for referring business to them, so I'm disclosing that. They might pay me something. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know yet. They have yet to do it. But the point is, Sawyer's a well-known brand. This is a great product. So we went through, John Hollerman and I went through this list together. Sorry, he has more time to do this kind of stuff than I did. And so I'm in the process of buying all this stuff, by the way. I got some of it I already own. The rest of it, I had to free up an extra $1,000 to be able to do it. But like I just ordered this knife here. I've always had, oh, that's the EDC one. Where's the other one? Oh, this one. I want the high carbon steel one. So I always use this knife for everything. But I never thought about getting one of these. So I ordered that. They'll be here this week. It's a nice 6-inch blade, full tang. He uses it to chop wood. It's an incredible tool. It does a lot of things besides uncutting. So that page is where you can get a lot of different resources if you're wondering, because it's pretty, there's so many options out there for all the things that we're talking about. I had to put a stake in the sand and say, this here's what I'm going to support and recommend. Some of it I've used for myself, like the Camelback. I've been using those for years. Everybody got Camelbacks. They're great tools, great items. Everybody got their own camo face paint. I'm actually looking forward to that one. Oh, these aqua tabs are pretty awesome too. You just throw it in the water. I like that one. I also like that collapsible. So again, Jonathan Hollerman has done some research on products that I'd never even thought of. Go back, there's one about toilet paper. You guys know you might need toilet paper in the field? Go to hygiene. It's down, 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 down. Or go the opposite way. Keep going. Hygiene. Click on that one. $14.
Okay. Real life story. I sent these with Logan on his mission to Africa. He said they were the best thing that I sent with him out of everything that I sent to him, because you can use them to wash your face, you can use them to go to the bathroom. They turn into like basically a wet wipe.
They're so small too.
They're like the size of a quarter.
Okay.
Try to use it for both.
They're highly compressed cloths So you just have to shake them apart or shake it and it opens up. See? Little teeny pellets. Don't swallow it. It's not for consumption. So again, there's lots of really cool stuff on there. Again, over the next couple of years, what I'm thinking we might do is, as I acquire them, we'll demonstrate these products here for you guys to see and play with, so you can decide if you want to use it yourself. So that's new. Click on presentations again. There's a couple of new presentations. So everything that we've done here tonight is already on our website for you to watch. Oh, if you want to know more about mesh radios, that was it. You missed it. So today's presentation, we just did that one. Go back up. Oh, that's your book. That's the book you're reading this month.
Oh, by the way, 1 second after, Asheville is mentioned a whole bunch of.
Oh, Swannanoa.
Swannanoa, that's where the hurricane is hit.
Yes. It just gave me goosebumps when I started hearing all the same towns that this book is talking about.
Yeah.
The Black Hills, Black Mountain. Yeah, there's lots of videos in the news today about those cities. Does anybody not know what book that I'm talking about here? This 1 second after? Okay, real quick, you got some catch up, because that was our book club book a few months ago.
That was our first one last year.
Oh yeah, it's the first one. So that book, William Forstchen he's famous for writing stories based upon hypothetical situations that could be true. Does that make sense? So he actually got his hands on a Pentagon report that talks about the effects of an EMP attack against the United States. And he took that report and he extrapolated from that report the storyline that you see in the book 1 second after. So it's what life would be like in Black Mountain, North Carolina, if an EMP struck the entire United States, and how they tried to survive through it.
One of which was centered over Utah. There were 3 blasts.
Oh, 3 blasts.
And one of which was centered over Utah.
So yeah, we got tagged too. The whole country got tagged. And does everybody know that North Korea has 2 satellites that cross over the United States twice a day? And that they don't know what those satellites are for because they don't transmit any data. You know, like weather satellites transmit data back to us. That's kind of useful information. The U.S. government's been monitoring those satellites and they haven't transmitted anything. Now, either they're broke, they just launched a bunch of space junk, or they're sitting on an EMP weapon inside those because North Koreans have that technology, and they're just waiting for us to piss them off enough to push the buttons. Hypothetical. Think about that.
China, Iran, and Russia also have the technology to do EMPs. And there are bugs, right? So they wouldn't do that to us.
Especially Iran, they love us.
Would our own government do it to us?
Conspiracy freak. Okay. This book here, if you haven't read Lights Out by Ted Koppel, he used to run Nightline, that TV show. That book came about because after he retired from Nightline, he became an investigative reporter, and he had heard rumors about the vulnerabilities of the U.S. power grid. Well, those vulnerabilities, he wanted to research and see if they were legitimate or not. All of his research was compiled into this book. So 75% of this book talks about all the various different risks there are to our power grid, which include physical attacks, cyber attacks, a coronal mass ejection, which is the sun, which we're going through. You guys know we're getting hit with CMEs right now, right? That's why we had the pretty sky a few nights ago. And then EMPs. The tail end of the book, the last 25% of the book, he's talking about what can we do to survive an EMP? And he goes through the government, FEMA. Can they save us? He quickly determined, no, they can't. So he went to the next option, which was private organizations. And he said the best private organization in the entire United States is who? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he called our presiding bishop, Bishop Gosset, came out here, met with him, got tours of all of our facilities, and then he wrote 3 chapters in his book about the saints in the church organization. Okay? Very valuable information. You can tell he knows nothing about a church because the way he words some things, he's completely off about our structure. But still, the interesting thing about it was that if the LDS Church is the strongest thing out there that helped protect us, he asked Bishop Kosei, if a major disaster like this happened and you have a large starving population, how do you protect these wonderful assets that the church has built up? Like we've got 10,000 head of cattle down in Cedar City. We've got our food processing plants up here, the granaries, the bishop storehouses. How do you protect those from being looted, like Costco would be? Anybody know what Bishop Kosei said? We don't. Who do we leave it up to?
Law enforcement.
The 1,200 law enforcement officers who support our county, who might be a little busy with law and order issues. They're not going to be out there to protect these assets. So don't count on it. Again, that's only if it's a long-term disaster, which means our power grid is not coming back up for a year, 2 years, or even longer. If that situation happens, your life is going to change dramatically. That's why we had our book club last month was Who Moved My Cheese? That was in August. Because you need to understand how to cope with change in a disaster situation. And that book does a good job of explaining to you your options on how you want to react. You can react positively or you can react negatively, and it's up to you. And it's a great book for handling any type of change in people's lives that I highly recommend. It's a short read. It's only like, 50 pages, 100 pages?
Yeah, it's very short.
Very short, but very incisive. So that's all these resources is what we've been posting on here. Tonight's presentation will probably be edited and put into the video as well. We'll figure out how to do that. But we want to thank, where's Matt and Maureen? There's Matt. So Matt and Maureen have been talking to me about how they can help Be Ready as an organization grow. And so I'm looking forward to working with them. And tonight they volunteered to come out here and videotape tonight's presentation. So they start looking more professional than what Aaron and Maria did.
It's a two-person show.
Oh, also, just so you guys know, you guys remember that I was trying to raise enough money to buy a trailer for medical supplies? Okay, the mission has been accomplished. We've raised the money for the trailer. I'm in the process of shopping for one. So we're looking for a 16-footer, double axle, 7-foot wide. If anybody has any leads on good ones, there's a few on KSL that I'm looking at. But be aware that goal has been accomplished. Also, thanks to our connection with the U.S. military, we also got a truckload of medical supplies donated to us already. So we've already inventoried it and cataloged it, and next we're going to try and figure out how we're going to store it in the trailer when I get it. So,
Where's the trailer going to be kept?
what's your address? So I'm talking to the city about if there's a way we can put it somewhere on city property, but at the same time, it can't be in an area that we can't access it during the winter. So if it was on property so I've got property right across the street from here, I got 2 acres. I could put it up there on my property, but if the city has a better location, I'm all for it. Perhaps by the salt shed, or whatever salt shed they're going to end up with might be another option where we can put that trailer. But we need to have access to it year-round. So I'm working that out with Ted. What's Ted's last name? Mickelson? Ted Mickelson. So he'll be working with us on that. Also, I've been acquiring some medical equipment. Probably shouldn't have, but it's only because it might be more, what do you call it? Not complex, but more technical than we have people staffed to be able to use the equipment. Does that make sense? I'm trying to find out if the equipment's going to work well. I bought it at auction for a fraction, for pennies on the dollar. So if I don't like it, I'll flip it on eBay. But I can take your heart rate and I can check your blood and see what's wrong with it, or see what type of blood you have, what type you have. That was the goal, to figure out what kind of blood people have. I guess I haven't told you, Matt, yet. I bought an EKG machine today for $61. So, and it includes the stand that goes with it too. Got it from, so I'm buying these from university medical centers. So that's where they're coming from. So they're not heavily used equipment, but they are selling them. I can't believe we bought for $61. Used, they're like $2,000. All right, well, thank you guys. Meeting is over. Sorry I went over, it's 9 minutes over.